Hello, my dear friends, and welcome to another episode of Europa Rediviva. I've been repeatedly asked to do a video on the economic hitmen that are plaguing the Romanian state budget. And this episode is going to be about this. Well, not only about this, as you will see, because I don't think the biggest problem that Romania has is the fact that it is milked by these international economic hitmen, so to call them. These corporations of many kinds that take in the resources of the country and that take in the labor, the fruits of the labor of the people through all sorts of mechanisms. I don't think this is the biggest problem. Why? Because these forces exist around the world. They are mostly connected to the United States because that's the center of the empire. And they tried these approaches with every country. There are 198 countries in this world. How many of them do you think are run to the same extent by these foreign forces like Romania is? I would say that perhaps a few tens, a few dozens of countries, because there are many weak governments in Africa that end up being run by foreign corporations. There's a lot of militarism on behalf of America done in the south part of the American continent, in Latin America. There are many governments that are taken over through interventions of the United States and subsequently milked. But in Europe, it happens to a lesser extent, and I think Romania I think Romania stands out in this respect. And this is why I'm saying this is not necessarily the problem. The problem is the fact that there is little to no resistance to this, because this is a well-known phenomenon, documented for decades. Karl Pershing, or what his name was, William, anyway, Confessions of an Economic Hitman, Naomi Klein, The Shock Doctrine. There are many books written on this matter ever since the 1990s, when this was at its peak. But the thing is, in most countries, the citizenry is aware of this problem. The citizenry is aware that there are these vulture funds, there are these predatory companies that come into the country to do all sorts of things, to externalize pollution there, to exploit the laborers, exploit them in the sense of breaking the labor code and exploiting them physically, of taking over the resources of the country for free or for cheaps, of taking over the the public utilities of those countries. These tendencies manifest themselves everywhere. Bechtel, this American company, allegedly infrastructure company, or I'm sure it approached many governments to offer its services of taking their money without building anything, as it happened in Romania with the Transylvania Highway, that Bechtel took hundreds of millions of dollars, perhaps even more than 1 billion. I don't recall the exact amounts, but the contract was made in such a way that Bechtel could demand endless amounts of money. It would fix the amounts that it would request from the Romanian government, and the Romanian government would just pay up. And in terms of deliverables, Bechtel was not bound to any deliverables, so it was basically a masked bribe. It was a way in which the Romanian state gave money to the United States, and it was disguised by this infrastructure building contract. But since little infrastructure was built and the price was astronomical, it was obvious a masked bribe. There are many such instances. The former prime minister, former and current prime minister of Romania, because even though he fell, he did not pass the vote of no confidence, he's still an interim prime minister. He pointed out the NuScale project, the NuScale energy project. You could call it an energy project if it will at some point deliver energy, but it will never deliver energy because its point is not to deliver energy. Its point is just to milk the public coffers. It is based on the assumption of an experimental nuclear technology to use to use nuclear propulsion engines from submarines in order to to create nuclear power for civilian use. So to build small nuclear power plants. It has never been tried. It has no proof of concept. It's just a channel through which hundreds of millions of euros are milked from the public coffers, just as our prime minister said, to give to the Americans, essentially. It's a form of, well, just like in the Ottoman times, this tribute was collected in the vassal countries. It's the same form of tribute. And yesterday, the news came out that the Romanian presidency signed a contract with a lobbying firm, several millions of dollars, about 550,000 euros per month, in order to improve the image of Romania in America, to liaise with Congress, to liaise with the presidency, anyway, to do some sort of lobbying work for Romania. And, well, what can I say about it? In traditional times, there was a diplomatic service for this. So if you wanted to improve your relations with a country, you would use your ambassador. If that country is also interested in improving relations with you. If that country is not interested in improving your relations with you, it's a hard sell to think that paying some millions of dollars to a company would make that country interested in you. But this is the paradigm that Romania is functioning under. And this is where I was trying to get. Sure, you have all of these predatory practices by the empire and by corporations linked to the empire. But there's also a pull factor. So there is the push factor coming from the economic hitmen, but there's also the pull factor coming from the domestic agents. So because Romania is a democratic country, it functions in this paradigm in which the citizenry elects public servants, elects public officials every 4 years or so in order to represent their interests. And Romanians overwhelmingly vote for this direction. This is why I'm saying that it's hard to claim that Romanians are the victims. Okay, maybe you can say that Romanians are the willing victims of this mechanism. But Romanians worship this direction. They have it as a religion. They say, we must do everything for the West. We must do whatever the West tells us. And if the West comes and says, hey, privatize your drinking water to us, just like Bucharest did with Veolia, a French company, the Romanians are like, oh, wow, France is coming to buy up our public utility company. Yeah, let's do this. Yeah, let's give it to them for cheaps. And we will be drinking French water from now on. There will be French water coming from the tap in Bucharest. This is the mentality. As long as Romanians worship the West, they do not have a rational approach to what's coming from there. They just worship whatever is coming their way, whatever proposals are coming their way, and they vote for this consistently. What can I say? Who am I to criticize the general direction of the people? If the majority of the population adheres to this, Vox Populi, Vox Dei, right? We are at Europa Rediviva. It's a Latin-inspired program, so yeah, I will come with more Latin adages. Of course, there's this vulture structure of predatory capital going all around the world. Bechtel, because I gave this example, was also involved in privatizing the drinking water in Bolivia. And guess what? The Bolivians did not regard this as, oh, we will be drinking American water from now on. They regarded this as just theft, and they rebelled, and in the end the contract was cancelled. It was part of an IMF loan agreement. The IMF basically said Bolivia should privatize the drinking water to Bechtel, to this American company, and of course, as soon as Bechtel took it over, it raised the price to unsustainable levels, unsustainable from the point of view of the population, meaning there were people dying of thirst because they could no longer buy the Bechtel drinking water, and they were also prohibited from storing rainwater. They could not even drink rainwater because the police or the army would come to beat them up and to destroy their tanks, because the country had signed up with the US government and with the IMF that Bechtel would have a monopoly on all drinking water in the country, be it stream water, be it rainwater, it doesn't matter. It was all owned by Bechtel. So for some reason the Bolivians did not prosternate themselves in front of the Americans, did not say, wow, America came to bring us water. We were dying of thirst before, but now we have water to drink because of the Americans. No, they took it for what it was, and they rebelled, and in the end the contract was cancelled. What is the resistance in Romania? The level of resistance in Romania is abysmal. It is next to none. Even the people who claim to be practicing resistance are just doing cosplay. There's this trendy variant of Romanian nationalism in which people dress in national attire and claim to be patriots. But if it comes to criticize the centers of power, who do these predatory practices towards the Romanian state budget, they just are too afraid to speak up, or they are thinking strategically. They think that they might have something to gain in the future when they will be chosen to be the vassals of the hegemon, the representatives of the American Israeli power in Romania, and therefore they just refrain from criticizing these practices. And this is when this is how you reach such a situation that Romania is the country that has the flag of Israel projected onto the parliament building for 3 consecutive nights in May. So it just happened a few weeks ago. Of course, many European countries are very favorable to Israel. But in Romania, this type of bowing to Israel has reached grotesque levels. So even though Israel has involved itself in Romanian affairs to quite a large degree, they have even involved themselves in the school curricula, in the fact that there is now a mandatory subject. I don't think it exists in any other country, but there is one mandatory school subject which promotes Israeli interests. Resistance from the population was next to none. And this thing with the 14th of May, Day of Friendship between Romania and Israel, this used to be the day of the anti-communist strugglers, the day in which the martyrs of the communist prisons were celebrated. It's debatable whether or not it was an appropriate celebration, but it was replaced with a Day of Friendship between Romania and Israel, and then it was expanded. Now it's 3 days. And while Israel is committing genocide in Palestine, and while it is becoming a pariah state, or it has long become a pariah state, but even among the European countries it is becoming a pariah state, Romania goes in the other direction. It just goes in the direction of worshipping Israel and projecting the flag of Israel onto the second largest administrative building in the world after the Pentagon, which is the Romanian parliament. It is doing all of these servility things. And this is bipartisan. This is like the entirety of the Romanian political spectrum sends their leaders in parliament in these joint sessions to hold these speeches, to deliver these speeches in which to praise Israel, to praise the relationship and so on. And I've asked such Romanian nationalists why do they condone this? And the answers I got were like either trying to evade the issue, trying to say that we should be friendly to all countries, and so evading the fact that we were just completely servile to Israel through these ceremonies. Or the other approach, that we are basically run by these foreign agents to such a large degree that we cannot escape this. And this is actually not true. We're doing it out of our own will in order to impress the perceived masters. It is this idea that this is where power lies, and we are doing this in order to gain favors from them. And this is why we're going the extra mile. If it were the other way around, if Romania was under some sort of foreign occupation, and as some nationalists like to claim, and these ceremonies were forced upon us by the military occupier, then they would not go so grotesquely out of proportion. There would be some sort of ceremonies just for the token value, but they would not be so grotesquely servile. It would not be 3 days; it would be just one day, perhaps. But we keep on expanding, and probably by 2030 there will be the month of friendship towards Israel. And for the whole of May, Romania will be clad in the Israeli flag, and there will be all sorts of ceremonies regarding Israel all over the country. And probably also in 2030, Romanian nationalists would tell me, well, this actually tells us, this actually comes to show how important we are. They are occupying us to such a degree. It means we're very important. And can you imagine how much we actually fight back if they've only gone so far? So there is no resistance, but they try to ascribe resistance to an imaginary process that might prohibit this, let's say, foreign occupation, as they like to call it, from obtaining more. So whenever an act of servitude is exhibited in the public space, they interpret it as the outcome of some sort of struggle in which we fought hard, but they fought harder. But at the end of the day, there is no struggle. I've been in those circles. I was politically involved in on both sides of the political spectrum, I would say. And I kind of saw what the ethos of those camps is. And unfortunately, there is this political consensus in Romanian society to follow this direction, the direction that we are following. There is no struggle against imperialism. There is no effort to free us from the chains of the empire. No, it is this bipartisan agreement that Daddy loves us, that we should show as much devotion to Daddy as possible. Daddy from Washington, as Rutte calls him. And then this is the outcome. So this is why my comeback to people who claim that Romania is being run by this network of predatory economic hitmen, my comeback is that, okay, this might very well be true, but there are other countries, like I would say most of the other countries, who actually fight back and who resist these pressures. And you can actually see, you can see how the Sahel is decolonizing. If you look in the history of Serbia, you can see how much they've resisted and how much they fought. And we have this impression of ourselves that we are great fighters and that we have fought so much in our history. But this is just because we are people of the word. We like to claim things and we like to write glorious histories of ourselves. And we like to disregard facts. If facts are inconvenient, we just disregard them and we just invent other facts and we claim that this is history. If you look at the history of the Serbs, you'll see what a fighting people is. They freed themselves from under the Ottomans. We were freed from under the Ottomans by the Russians. It was the Russian-Turkish War of 1877-1878, which we conveniently took out of our history. So in the history of Romania, Romania became independent through the proclamation of the Prime Minister Mihail Cogălnicianu on the 9th of May of 1877. This is how Romania became independent. No mention of the fact that it was through the Congress of Berlin in 1878, where Romania was not a participant because Romania did not exist from a legal point of view. Romania was not a participant in that conference, and in that conference, the parties that signed it agreed, and on our behalf it was Russia who decided that we became independent, signed for Romanian statehood. It was it was an external process, but we like to disregard the external part, and we like to just ascribe the victory to ourselves, the merit through words, through the fact that our prime minister announced it, and then it became a fact. So we are enamored by this by this fake history in which we are such lions and such heroes, and we have the tendency to look at the present through a similar lens. We offer no resistance whatsoever. We do nothing to oppose these forces, but we like to think of ourselves as great warriors who are always who are always fighting these forces, and who are defeated heroically. And this is why these forces gain the upper hand. Truth is, there is no fight. Romanians are willing collaborators in this process of becoming vassals, of becoming more and more vassal to the empire, and they're also complicit in their use as a proxy, in their future use as a proxy in Ukraine. So it is not for nothing that Romania is becoming involved in these structures. The Odessa Triangle, the Bucharest Nine, Romania is at the forefront of the extension of the Ukrainian proxy. And Romanians, if you ask them, they actually know it. It's not a secret. It's not something that I've learned from occult sources. It's out in the open. If you read the news, you see this. They know it, but I don't know. They're either too they either don't feel like doing anything because it requires effort. They either don't do anything because they think we might have something to gain from it. Anyway, the thing is, it's out in the open that we are being vassalized, that we are being robbed, and that we will be soon used as a proxy, military proxy. And Romanians had a say in it. Okay, the elections were annulled in December 2024, but then they took place in May of 2025. And again, some Romanians like to claim that those elections were not free and fair. I don't know to which extent they were fair or free, but those ballots that were cast were real. And Nicu Șordan won the presidency on the mandate of continuing the direction, including the direction to become a proxy of an extension of the Ukrainian proxy, with I don't know, some million votes, and those people were real. People cast those ballots. So my point, my comeback to whoever asks me about how Romania is being looted and it is becoming more and more used as a proxy, my comeback would be, okay, but Romanians are willing participants in their own destiny. They cast ballots. They're not like a population under military occupation. They're not like the Palestinians, or I don't know, the Kurds, or whatever stateless people, or I don't know. They're not like a country that is military occupied, so that they have no say, or like a country that is run as an absolute monarchy like Saudi Arabia, where people have no way of casting a ballot. No, in Romania, people are decently informed. They are informed to a large extent. I mean, the information is out in the open, and if they don't know it, it's their fault, but they should have known it, because this is what being a citizen implies: to cast your ballot based on your interest, and the interest you have to identify. You have to identify in which way the government will serve your interest, and this is why you appoint people to lead you in that direction. And if this is what people voted for, who am I to say that it's wrong? You know, if Romanians are willing participants in this, if the Romanian state is being privatized to such an extent that lobby is replacing diplomacy, and Romania has a diplomatic service for nothing because it just tries to buy favor with officials from the targeted countries, people should sanction this at the ballot boxes. This will not happen because it has not happened before. Nicu Șordan will be re-elected, just like Klaus Iohannis was re-elected for no merit whatsoever, but people considered that it is important to elect the correct direction, the Western way, to show that we can, and those sorts of vacuous slogans like these. So if this is what Romanians want, who am I to say that it's wrong? And I definitely go against the perception that many Romanians have that this is somehow done to us, that it is foreign forces that militarily occupy us and that politically occupy us and economically occupy us. We are willing complicits. We could have always voted differently and we didn't. And this is the outcome. Society is led by the outcome of the votes of the people, and if the people voted this way, there is no ground on which to base a contradicting argument. There's nothing that supersedes the will of the people, unfortunately. So I would say that Romania fared the best when it was under a dictatorship of an enlightened minority, and this was in the years of socialism. And it cannot reach such levels of development through the democratic process, unfortunately. And there are many factors for this. If you look at IQ tables, Romania fares very poorly. It's like the bucket of the region, so to say, of Eastern Europe. Literacy rates, even though nominally literacy rates are pretty high, functional literacy rates are very low, so people are unable to actually derive meaning from written text, even though they know the letters. The Romanian education system is very bad. The majority of the people who finish higher education also are not trained to think, so they are unable to have opinions. They can only imitate. And this is why they imitate the public discourse that exists and that is run by these foreign agents, this network of foreign agents, and it is financed from abroad. The Russians also had this. The Russians also had Radio Free Europe, the network of scholarship recipients from the State Department. In the 1990s, they also had the economic hitman. They had everything. And they started voting differently. In the West, it is not acknowledged that Russians freed themselves from under this oligarchy and from this tutelage, from this Western tutelage. But if you look at the electoral history of Russia, especially the parliamentary history, you will see that slowly after the liberalization of the 90s, the sovereigntist camp gained traction. And it was a sovereigntist camp that was different from the communists, and it was different from the nationalists. So it was different from both Gennady Zyuganov's camp, who wanted to reestablish the Soviet Union, or from Zhirinovsky's camp, who wanted to reestablish the Tsarist Empire and to do Russian nationalism also against national minorities. There was a third way that broke from the liberal camp, and that broke away from the, let's say, economic hitmen sent by Washington, like Yegor Gaidar, and who developed its own direction, which is now the one that has Putin at the forefront. And it could have easily been somebody else. It's not Putin's dictatorship. It could have easily been Primakov, for example. Putin was selected just as an outcome of this electoral process. I encourage you to look at the electoral history of the parliamentary elections in Russia from 1993 onwards, from the first parliamentary elections of the Russian Federation until today, and you will see how society coagulated around different ideas. This liberal Western-sponsored party still exists to this day, Yabloko. They could have voted for it. They could have voted for it. They did vote for it to push it into parliament in the 1990s, and in the 2000s it did not pass the threshold. And it continues to run in the elections, but it doesn't gain votes. Why? Because the Russians despise this direction. They despise the economic hitmen. They despise the Russian-Israeli oligarchs that took over the Soviet economy and monopolized it, became monopolists of every industrial branch in the 1990s in the privatization process. They despised the comprador elites that take orders from Washington, and they regard themselves as patriots, and they believe that their country should be run by them. They do not worship the West to the extent that Romanians do, and they do not think that agents of the West who represent Western interests, especially Western financial interests, should be given the resources of the country for free or for cheap, or the fruits of the labor of the people through either labor exploitation or directly through tax exploitation, so through plundering the state budget by all of these projects which just serve as a form of tribute. So yeah, this is what I wanted to say. Romanians are willing complicits to what is going on, to what is happening to them, and unfortunately, this is what also makes the process unstoppable. So my hunch is that Romania will be used against Russia, because this is the direction that the foreign masters of Romania want to take things into. And there will be no resistance. Why? Because there is no resistance in general. Because Romanians do not resist. Romanians like to not resist and then to make up stories of how heroically they resisted. This is how it works. This is the Romanian psyche. Just like, as I mentioned before, the story with how hard the Romanians fought against the Soviets, how hard they fought for Romania not to become communist. It's a lie, but it's a lie that Romanians like to tell themselves, because it makes them feel good. So Romanians have somehow optimized psychologically this thing with struggle. Struggle is bad because struggle requires effort. So instead of struggle, just go on with whatever and then invent stories afterwards. Invent stories of how much you struggled. This is the optimal path, the path of least resistance. And this is the one Romania is currently on. I'm sure historians, future Romanian historians will look back at these times and they will they will invent stories of how hard the Romanians fought. And then Romanian school children will learn about this in school, how hard the Romanians fought against American capital and against international economic hitmen. Because, yeah, why go like the Serbs? Why have your country genocided? Why have a third of your population die in a war of national resistance, as they did in the First World War and then in the Second World War, when you can just go along with everything, side with the victors once things have calmed down, and then claim that you have struggled so much and that you have fought so hard. This is the Romanian way. And this is what Romania is currently embarking upon. I'm pretty sure that these nationalists, between commas, who like to do cosplay and to pretend that they are patriots by posting, I don't know, gym pictures or photos with them in national attire to show how much they fight against the globalists, I'm sure that they will invent glorious stories 10 years from now, how much they fought the empire and so on. So this is what I wanted to tell you. If you like what I do, like, share, subscribe. If you like to support me financially, there is a link in the description of the channel of how to do so. And until next time, take care.